Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Civivi Incite. Thank you very much for White Mountain Knives for getting this to me so fast. I wanted to get this review out quickly because you guys really like to hear about the new Civivi stuff quick because it sells really fast. And one of the best places to get it is White Mountain Knives because they usually get them before everybody else. They get them out to me before at the same time that they give them to everybody else, but very, very quickly. And not only that, you can use the code SDWMK at checkout and get 10% off anything on the White Mountain Knives site. SDWMK, Slicey Dicey, White Mountain Knives. If you can't figure out that acronym, you don't have to buy a Civivi, whatever the hell you want. It's fine. You can use that at any time. And I don't get anything back from it. It's just a nice thing that they do for us. So I do very much appreciate that. But go check them out for all your Civivi and other needs and see what they have in stock. All right, let's talk more about this knife. This is the Incite. It is a larger knife. It is one of the more expensive Civivis. Speaking of the 10% off, you'd be getting 10% off of $79.50 for this particular carbon and G10 version. The carbon G10 combo, we'll talk a lot more about that in a moment, don't worry. It comes in 3 different versions. It comes in this red, a green, or a blue. Obviously the carbon's still black, but it's just the color of the G10 that's mixed in there. They also have, for the same $79.50, one in Quibarcia wood. I'm not really sure how to say that. That's kind of a natural colored wood. That's also $79.50. And then for a little bit less, they have one with black ebony wood handles, which actually is pretty smart looking, I do have to say, for $72.50. That one's a little bit less expensive. I'm not sure what Quibarcia wood is. I have no idea, and I'm sure I'm butchering that. But other than that, you are getting pretty standard high-end Civivi fare. You're getting D2 steel. You are getting ball bearing, flipper, that usual kind of stuff they do, deep carry pocket clip, a couple different things. Of course, first of all, the scales. I really like this kind of carbon G10 layered thing that a few Chinese manufacturers are doing. I had a Tuya that had similar ones to it too. But I really like it because you see it's layered, but then when you mill it, it comes out with these cool little lines like this if you have rounded scales, which these are very rounded and very comfortable. We'll get to that in a moment as well, but I really like that. All of them come with the gray liners. Also, a new thing that Civivi's doing, and I had it on the Duras and sort of on the Elementum, but this has a recessed clip and recessed pocket screws, so it makes it going in and out of the pocket super, super easy. The Elementum, the pocket clip isn't recessed, but the screws still are. It's really nice for that last little bit when you're trying to get in your pocket, just to have those recessed screws. Wish a lot more companies did that. You can see it's all nicely milled out inside. Very, very nice. I really like the way they did this little lanyard pin instead of having a lanyard tube. Yes, it is right-hand carry only, so there's that. But and the usual Civivi branding of just the Civivi logo on the pivot and a very tiny D2 marking. Which side is it on? There it is. I don't know if it's even going to show up on camera. It's so small. There's a little bitty D2 marking. Civivi, these are made by We. This is We's budget brand, if I didn't mention that. They're very good at hiding that kind of stuff. The usual great Civivi quality hardware. Really, really nicely done. $79.50 is getting up there for a Civivi, but it's very, very well built. I have no complaints there. Fit and finish are awesome. It's centered very well. Lockup's great. All the usual stuff you expect. It's got all that. It's excellent in all those ways. Let's do some specs and size comparisons before we get too much farther. We have an overall length of about 8.5 inches. You have a blade length of 3.7 inches, so it's a pretty good sized knife. You have a blade thickness, though, pretty thin at 0.12 inches, handle thickness of 0.55 inches, and a weight about 4.6 ounces, so not super light for the size that it is. And I honestly was a bit surprised by that. I expect it to be lighter because you can see I don't know if you guys can come up on camera, but it's really milled out inside. I don't know, maybe this scale material's a bit heavier. I'm not sure. I guess I was expecting about 4 ounces. It's 4.6. I mean, it's fine. It's not a tank, but I was expecting it to be just a little bit lighter, I guess. Now let's do some size comparisons. We will first of all put it in our usual Spyderco sandwich. Move it down here a little bit, and we have our Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Try to line them up by the pivots. And your Spyderco Para 3. As you can see, it's not much bigger than a PM2, just a hair. And cutting length is pretty similar because you have this forward finger choil. So yeah, it's pretty similar in size to a PM2. Not bad for a much larger blade, but again, the cutting edge is pretty similar. Obviously much larger than the Para 3. Next up, we will put up the Ontario Rat Model 1, because I know a lot of us have these. I've joked that you can't be a knife guy and not have a Rat Model 1. This is just another D2 kind of knife, and roughly, not quite the same price bracket. These are 50 something, but yeah, a little bit shorter than that. And lastly, probably a more apropos comparison. I wish I had a Civivi Praxis here, because it's another one of their larger models. I don't have that, unfortunately, but this is the Backlash, their original, I guess the first knife that really kind of broke them out on the map. I would say they came out with 3 at the same time, but those three, I think everybody liked the Backlash the most. It's just a little bit bigger than a Backlash. Steve Kluver, who you see in the comments a whole lot, told me I could use this quote. He emailed me to say he got his today also. And again, I've only had this today. This is just a one-day review, but he mentioned that it's like a Backlash and a Praxis had a wonderful little baby, and he's kind of right. It kind of is. It really is. You can see a lot of kind of design similarities between the Backlash and the Incite, but it's more Praxis-y size, a little bit smaller than the Praxis, but not by much. So I think that's pretty cool. As far as the blade goes on this is the most important part of any knife. Civivi's D2, never had a problem with it. Very thin blade stock, super high flat grind, and as is the norm with Civivi's, very, very thin behind the edge, as is the norm with Wii's mostly now, with their own designs anyway. The stuff they make for other people may be a bit thicker behind the edge, but this is extremely thin behind the edge. I measured it at 15 thousandths behind the edge, and with that high flat grind, I've only had it a day, but I did have to do a whole lot of pack and ship today for my other business, and I had to cut a whole lot of boxes, those trimmed down to size boxes, a whole bunch of those. Man, this thing is a laser beam. I know I use that same phrase a lot with Civivis, but it is the most accurate description of most Civivis are excellent slicers, and this is no different. It is a flat grind. It feels like a bit of hollowness to it, but it's a flat grind. And man, it slices so well, though. Such thin blade stock, and it's such a high grind. Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. Tip is not anything I'd want to be going prying on stuff with, but it's not horridly thin. The forward finger choil works as a great sharpening choil. It's not going to be a problem to sharpen or anything like that. I like the finish on the blade. I've heard some people lately complain about Civivi and Wii's satin finish, that it looks a bit cheap. I don't know. I kind of like it. Yeah, there are some that are better, but I think it looks all right. Yeah, excellent, excellent, excellent blade. And the excellency continues with the ergonomics. These contoured handles just feel so good. And pocket clip is like not there. I mean, I guess I can sort of feel this little hump at the back, but definitely nothing that's going to cause any problems. And if you choke up, it completely disappears. And I used it a lot like this, choked up today, cutting cardboard and stuff. It's not the most comfortable forward finger choil ever. It does get a bit thin up here, obviously, so it's not super comfy, but it's plenty usable. The jimping's great. The placement of that mid choil, I guess you'd call it, the cutout for the lock bar are good. I thought from looking at it I was going to be able to feel the jimping from this lock bar, but I really don't. And the contours just feel amazing. Definitely a knife you could use all day for real work and your hand wouldn't cramp up or get tired or anything. It's very, very, very good ergonomically. As far as the carry goes, mostly good. It is pretty tall. It's not quite like Spyderco Manix 2. I should have brought my Manix 2 out here for size comparison. But it's not quite that tall, but it is pretty tall in the pocket for sure. As I said, that pocket clip makes it super easy to go in and out. It works great. Carries very deep. Yeah, but you do notice that width when you're trying to get your hand past it. It's not a pocket dominator by any means, but you do notice it. And you also, that the way that the pocket clip is angled, I feel like if they angled it in a bit more, you wouldn't notice it as much. But the way it's angled now, you do notice that flipper tab a little bit. If you are obsessive about pocket peckers, you might notice that. It's not egregious by any stretch of the imagination, but it's there and worth mentioning. As far as the deployment goes, I mean, it's a Civivi. They're all really good. I don't know what to tell you. It's running on ball bearings. I've not taken this apart or anything, but still, it's just one little wrist flick and it's down. The detent is nigh on perfect, and with a blade this big, sometimes it is. I might be able to do it on camera. Sometimes it is hard to make them so they don't fly out, but they got it. One issue with the deployment on it, and this is probably the most annoying thing I have to say about this knife, is by the time it passes the detent is almost the exact same time that flipper tab's hitting your thumb. So that's a bit annoying. I'm not really sure what you do about that, but that's slightly annoying. But other than that, the deployment is, as far as rocking it out, it's great. It rockets out awesome. It's just the closing it. Yeah, you get that. You're gonna hit your thumb with that flipper tab every single time. So that's slightly annoying, but it's not the end of the world. They disengage at the same time. It's not like one prevents the other, from the other, but they just hit at the same time. So what is my overall opinion on this? I will say my final conclusion is that I got this as a catch and release. I had no intention of keeping this. I don't normally like knives in this kind of size category, and I was pretty happy with my 3 Civivi set that I have right now. But I really, really like this. I really do. And I have slightly missed my Praxis a few times, so it might be staying around a little while longer than I thought it would. So I think that's pretty high praise. It's a really nicely done knife. It's a Civivi. I really like this layered G10 carbon. I think it looks really cool. It definitely comes out looking a lot more carbon than G10. And it's not like your usual, one layer of carbon laminate. You can see it's multiple layers of carbon. So there is a fair amount of carbon fiber in there. My only 2 real complaints, I guess, would be that detent thing. Well, I guess more of a flipper tab thing. I don't know what you even call that issue. And I wish it was a little bit lighter, because it just looks like it should be lighter. With all this carbon fiber and the milled out liners, it just looks like it should be lighter. But those are my really only 2 issues with it. I think the price is pretty fair. It's not a bargain, but I think it's fair. And that's what we're getting into now with Civivis. They're doing some higher end stuff, and they're still doing the cheaper ones. I know a lot of those are coming back in stock, and that's great. But some of their models are creeping into where they're fairly priced, but not the huge bargains they used to be. I hope that they don't get any higher, I guess is what I'm saying. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.